hard slab project. And when I say hard slab, I don't mean difficult. I mean, we want our clay to be kind of hard. So the key is to have some slabs that are in that more leather hard stage, early leather hard. You don't want them to be so difficult that you can't slip and score them, so hard that they're too difficult to slip and score together. So I have some slabs here. This one is pretty flimsy. Notice it's not really holding its shape. And then I have a couple others that are a little firmer where they really are holding their shape. So you want it to be able to hold its shape and not sag when you kind of hold it up. I'm going to do a simple box project. This can be adapted to any other kind of shape. We'll talk about that at the end. So the key is to have your slabs cut. I used a template. That way you know it's all going to fit together. If you can't make it out of paper, you won't be able to make it out of clay. And I've already beveled, so you know how to bevel. But for beveling, for when we put hard slabs together, instead of beveling one side and then flipping it, beveling the other, and having beveled edges on both sides, I want all my bevels on the same side. So you may not be able to see this very well, but I've beveled here, 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 and here because I'm going to be adding walls in all of those places. So any place there's a corner or two walls coming together is where I need to bevel. So I've beveled all my slabs, pre-beveled them for demo purposes, and I'm choosing my slab that's a little firmer because when I use a firm slab, it will totally stand up on its own. If I was to use a softer slab, it works, but it starts to get a little flimsy, and in the end, your craftsmanship, that neatness, will not be as high quality as if you're using the firmer one and it stays up a little bit better on its own. Okay, so I've beveled this slab as well. I've beveled everywhere where I'm gonna add. If I'm making a cube, I've beveled all four sides of all 6 slabs. If I'm only making a box without a top, I don't need to bevel this top edge. That top edge might stay straight. Okay, slip and score. So we know how to do that. And you know that I skip it, so I'm gonna skip that and pretend like I did it. And then what I wanna do, I'll turn it this way so you can see really well. Actually, let me leave it on the side first. Okay, when I go to attach this after I've slipped and scored, I need to line it up, but I also need to really press it. So I don't know if you can tell, but I'm really pressing here on the bottom edge. I need to really press that, and I can run my finger along that edge and I can really push it so that that mitered corner, that beveled edges, they really are getting smushed together. You do not want to see a gap here. It should look like a corner. And sometimes we don't realize it because we're working flat, we're building like this on the side, and we don't realize that we didn't really push that. So make sure you really give it a good push and you're sealing that up by pressing it together. Now, when we do a hard slab project like this, it's really great to come back with a teeny tiny coil and seal up that inside edge. Why not? You're not going to even see that I did it really because I'm going to use such a small coil, but it will help the connection stay stronger. So I'm going to take a real tiny coil, the size of like a piece of spaghetti or something like that, string, and I'm going to lay it in this inside corner, and it's almost like you're taping it. So I'm going to put my finger, press it, and then I'm going to swipe it. I don't want to see that there's a coil there, so I need to smooth or blend this in. And what it's doing is it's sealing, slip, score, seal, right? I'm sealing that inside connection, but it doesn't look like I just threw a fat coil in there, okay? And what it will do will add strength to it. Don't worry about the outside yet until you build more. So my next step would be to slip this side, 2 sides, score, and then I'm doing the same thing, but now I have to do it in 2 places. So I have to really press, let me turn it. I have to really press here and make sure that that edge is getting tight against the bevel of the bottom piece. And I have to really press or pinch these walls together here to make sure that they're connected. While I'm doing all this, it's deliberate, but it's gentle. You don't want to ruin the quality of the nice slabs you made. You want to make sure it stays nice and neat, but you do have to be forceful enough that you're doing something. And then once I've attached those, I'd come back with my tiny, tiny coils, and I'd have to run one up here, and I'd have to run one around there. Okay, So that's the basics of building a hard slab project. And of course I would continue another slab, and it's really important that that final slab is leather hard, you know, on the early side of leather hard. If it's not, you can see this slab would start to sink. So if I really want something nice and crisp and clean, it's essential I'm working with what we call hard slabs. That's why it's called a hard slab project. Once you've gotten at least 4 of your walls up, it gets a lot more stable, and I'm building it with the base on the bottom. And then what I can do is when I pull, when I eventually have more walls up, I can start to seal these walls from the outside. So running your finger up it or pinching it like this, right, with one hand or two, that will help seal your corners from the outside. Everything has to get sealed up in order for it to stay together. If a hard slab project fails, it will fail in your corners. They will crack apart. So the better job you do slip scoring, sealing, and adding those supportive coils, the better chance that your project will survive and not crack apart. This is the basics of a hard slab project, but I want you to keep in mind, I'm doing a box. It's super simple. There's no reason that instead of a square template, what if I had a template that looked more like the shape of a letter? So let's say I have the letter E, a template that's the letter E. I could have a hard slab that's the shape of an E. And I could be adding other hard slabs around that letter to create it. And then if I have a second E shape that goes on top, I've now made a block letter E. So it's a good way to make very shapy slabs as well. Things that you wouldn't be able to do with the simple soft slab project where you're just simply wrapping something and creating round.